John and I met when I was a 19-year-old college student from upstate New York, and he was a worldly man of 28 with a job, an apartment, and a car. That was very real, a real big deal at that time. We were married a year and a half later. Of course, there were rough spots in our long marriage: job pressures, his, illness, mine, money problems, ours. We got through them somehow, sometimes a little chastened, but with our deep need for each other strengthened. Of all the ways that Howard changed me, a shy, studious teenager when we met, the most important was that he made me laugh. And then there's a paragraph about the accident. Oddly, my professional life, which started late because I stayed home with our 3 children who were young, flourished. But beneath my professional, in-control exterior was an empty void. I had lost my life partner, and not to death, but to an empty void. Continuous series of reminders of what was, what might have been. It was a kind of widowhood with a living partner, and so it was for years and years and years. I thought it would last forever. On New Year's Eve, June 2006, the 52nd anniversary of our first date, Howard developed chest congestion just before midnight. The usual remedies didn't work, and by 3 a.m. I told him I thought we should go to the emergency room. No, he yelled, no hospital. An hour later, I said, I can't handle this, and I'm going to get an ambulance. And when I came out of the shower, it couldn't have been more than a few minutes. All was quiet. I ran to him and knew at once that he was dead. In a split second in 1990, I became a caregiver and not a wife. And in a split second in 2007, as 2007 dawned, I became neither a caregiver nor a wife, but a widow. After a few weeks, I threw out or donated everything in our apartment that reminded me of my husband's 17 years of living with the effects of this traumatic brain injury that nearly killed him. Out went 2 wheelchairs, a hospital bed, oxygen equipment, incontinence supplies, prescription drugs, lotions, therapeutic aids, orthotics, sweatpants, sneakers, blue shirts, everything. But Howard stayed. For the first few months, I continued to hear him calling me. A few times I even got up at night and went into his room, absolutely certain that he would still be there and that his death, not his voice, was a dream. These incidents began to fade, but I found myself feeling the original loss in a way that I could not bring myself to do when he was alive. And as the more distant past and the more recent past collided, I felt unmoored. Nothing felt right. I could finally go out at night without making special arrangements, but I had to be prodded to do it. Having never lived alone, I did not like coming home to a silent apartment. At home was where I most wanted to be. You should take a trip, a friend said, maybe a cruise. But instead, I decided to renovate my apartment. The project gave me a way to focus on improving my life within the security of home. The wall that created a separate hospital-like bedroom for Howard came down, opening up new living space for me. For 3 months, I zipped myself into my plastic-encased bedroom at night, and I stepped over construction materials as I entered and left. When I could finally sit in an almost completed space, I spent time each night in the spot where Howard's bed had been, as if asking for his approval of what I'd done. Slowly, I began to find a new way of living, without the vibrant, intellectually curious, and loving person Howard used to be, and without the angry, needy, and impatient person he became. And the 2 kinds of memories became coming together. They were parts of the same person, after all, and I loved and I lost them both. The new living room, dining room is clearly my creation. The prints on the wall are intimate graphic pieces that I collected. The needlepoint pillows are the ones I stitched in hospital rooms. But he is there too. One of the rosewood vases we bought together sits on a table. A small black clock with the white numbers remains at just the right angle for his vision. He is ever present, but the room is now a reflection of me as I am now. Married once, I've been widowed twice. I'm still sad, but now I can laugh again. So that's about bereavement and the very long process of through, so when someone in your care experiences a loss, it's not just that moment, but it goes on for quite a long time. But the most important thing you can do is to acknowledge that loss. And I know for many physicians particularly, it's very difficult to do that. It may feel uncomfortable or like a failure or just don't know what to say. I mean, most people feel that uncomfortable anyway, but I think there's a special resistance in medicine to acknowledging that. And yet it's really one of the most important things you can do, because the loss, someone hears that their loss is being recognized. So I just want to leave you with that idea and that thought, that caring there are a lot of dimensions to caring. And one of the dimensions is listening to stories, as you've listened to mine, and I'm grateful for that, but also being with the person in that moment, wherever that moment is, and appreciating this is not going to be, their life is going to go on, whether it's the patient or the family, but that you are there with them at this point. Believe me, it will be really remembered and really appreciated at some other point. So thank you. And I'm still here if you want to ask any more questions. You can.